I'm ready. Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining today. We are going to wait one more minute, just given the number of participants keeps going up, to give people a couple more seconds to join, and then we will get started. As a quick reminder, throughout the presentation, don't hesitate to ask questions in the chat. We will have folks on the TEA side responding to questions that we can, and we will be collecting all questions. And if we can't answer them today, we'll be posting an FAQ document on our websites. So definitely please ask questions that you have as we go through this webinar today. It looks like the number of attendees is still going up, but we're a couple minutes in, so I'm going to go ahead and get started. And again, just ask questions as you need to. So thank you everyone for joining the Texas Home Learning 3.0 Product-Specific Adoption webinar series. Today we're going to focus on K-5 math. My name is Kristen Hull. I'm the Associate Commissioner of Instructional Strategy. We have a number of other folks from TEA on the phone today as well. We have Melissa Lautenschlager, who's the Director of Instructional Materials and Implementation, as well as Dana Moyer, who is the Manager of Instructional Materials and Implementation. The three of us will be presenting different parts of the presentation today, and we are excited to get started. So a couple things we want to cover. Dana, if you could go to the next slide. Is just want to quickly orient folks on the call to what we are, where we are in the context of these webinar series. So Dana, if you go back one, thank you. So there's four webinar series that we're planning to launch as a part of Texas Home Learning. The first was the Adopt series, where we focused on some generic guidance around how to think about whether you should adopt your current materials, adopt new materials or adapt your existing materials based on your context. Those are available on the TEA website on the Strong Start page. We are also creating product-specific adoption webinars that provide districts with information to better think through whether or not they want to adopt a particular product that's being released as a part of Texas Home Learning. So each of these webinars will focus on a particular subject and grade band. Today we are focusing on Math K-5, and yesterday we released information about Math 612, and that webinar can be found on the Texas Home Learning website. Moving forward, we'll have two additional webinar series focused on product-specific and stakeholder-specific onboarding. So for example, if you choose to adopt a particular product, what are some immediate next steps to help support implementation, as well as technology support that will help districts understand how a particular, how our LMS, the partnership with LMS and Schoology could help enhance a particular product. So moving on, we have a couple of objectives for today. First, we're going to introduce the Texas Home Learning 3.0 math product and explore some features that support remote learning and implementation in various school models. We'll also preview a couple of the upcoming and ongoing implementation supports for Texas Home Learning, and we'll share some additional information about when you can access materials. On the next slide, we do want to just give you all a quick reminder of what Texas Home Learning is. Many of you may have seen this slide and heard this, but for those of you who haven't, we just want to quickly orient you to Texas Home Learning 3.0. It is an optional aligned suite of resources that educators can fully or partially use in their new learning environments. It includes instructional materials, pre-K through 12, that are digitized, standards aligned, and customized for Texas in this specific environment. It includes a number of technology tools, including a learning management system to support student engagement and instructional collaboration. And there's content and technology focused professional development to support quality implementation. Districts can adopt part of this Texas Home Learning 3.0 suite of tools or all of it. It is up to them. Today, we're specifically focusing on the instructional materials component for the Math K-5 product. And as a reminder, on the next slide, these materials are not off-the-shelf curriculum that we've purchased, but they are partnerships with publishers who have agreed to adapt the materials specifically for this context. So recognizing that the materials both will be adapted for remote learning and a number of other features, and go through a rigorous review process to confirm alignment with the TEKS and quality standards before they are released publicly for use. On the next slide, one of the other things to highlight here is for all subjects and grades offered as a part of Texas Home Learning, we have looked at 6 main criteria when selecting the instructional materials that will be used as a part of Texas Home Learning. So within these 6 criteria, you can see that there's unit plans and lesson plans aligned to the standards. There's support for teachers, students, and families. There's built-in progress monitoring, formative and summative unit assessments. Materials are available digitally as well as having print capabilities. And there's accessibility supports for all learners. So we want to ensure that all of these components are included for each product as it relates to a specific subject and grade. And we'll be focusing on Math K-5 today. So to get us started, I do want to introduce the new Texas Home Learning Math K-5 product, which is the Eureka Math TEKS Edition, created by Great Minds, the publisher. We're really excited about this product today. We're excited to look at some sample teacher and student materials and provide information on how and when you can begin accessing the first set of materials. Eureka Math TEKS Edition, as I mentioned, comes from the Great Minds team. So you may hear Eureka and Great Minds referenced both throughout this presentation, both referring to the K-5 math product. Eureka Math TEKS Edition integrates the mathematical process standards with the grade level TEKS. Students develop deep knowledge and an understanding of the why rather than just the how of math. Concepts progress coherently so students understand that they are building on what they already know rather than starting over every topic new. Eureka Math is built to support all students in accessing grade level TEKS and is a comprehensive product with all the necessary components to support student learning. Given this, no supplementary material is needed to implement the K-5 math product with fidelity. These are just some high-level focuses on the instructional philosophy of the Eureka Math TEKS Edition program. Another thing we just want to highlight is that the Eureka Math TEKS Edition program does meet all of the components that were required as a part of, to be included as a Texas Home Learning product. So it has daily teacher lesson plans and student material and module assessments with guidance for remote learning. Eureka Math in Sync includes videos of all lessons that can be accessed in a home environment. There are digital and print materials available. The materials are included in Spanish, and there are supports to understand and respond to individual student learning. There's a tool called Eureka Moth Equip, which is the assessment tool that assesses unfinished learning and provides guidance for how to address that learning in lessons, as well as daily exit tickets included in each lesson plan. We'll go through some of what's included here in a little bit more detail in this presentation. We do want to highlight a couple of the frequently asked questions that we get from districts right up front, given that I know many of these questions are on your mind. 1, does Eureka Math TEKS Edition align to the TEKS resource system? 2, do I need Schoology to use Eureka Math TEKS Edition? And 3, when will materials be released? To answer question number 1, we do want to highlight that the product was strategically designed with a scope and sequence unique to the materials. Therefore, it is not aligned to the TEKS resource system. However, we do want to support districts who are transitioning from the TEKS resource system and may be interested in adopting this product. So we'll be providing some further analysis and recommendations for how to think about that transition. Again, no supplementary material is needed because all of the lessons and units are built out and aligned to the scope and sequence that will be provided for the product. And I do want to highlight here that mixing and adapting the product scope and sequence and the associated lessons is not recommended, given that the modules, topics, and lessons were intentionally ordered to build on one another. So using parts of this curriculum outside of the context of how it was designed is not recommended for implementation best practices. I also want to highlight whether or not you need Schoology to use Eureka Math TEKS Edition, and the answer is no. Districts will be able to access Eureka Math TEKS Edition resources in a variety of ways. The first way is that all of the resources will be included on the Eureka Math TEKS Edition website, and you can access that website through the texasHomeLearning.org site. So on texasHomeLearning.org, we will include links to all of the product vendors that will be part of THL, and you can access the materials there. The second way that you can access materials is through a district Schoology instance if a district has chosen to adopt a Schoology. You can also access the materials, you can access the LTI code that will allow a district to integrate resources into another LMS if they have not chosen to adopt Schoology. So again, numerous ways to access these materials. On today's webinar, everything that we cover will be materials that you can access just on the vendor's website. So you will not need Schoology to access any of the things that we discussed today. However, we will be holding another webinar that will highlight some of the features that Schoology will allow you to do when thinking about how you could potentially enhance the product and the use of the product, but that will come later. I also do just want to highlight a quick plug for Schoology. We are really, really excited that 280 districts have already signed up and another 220 are close. So if you're interested, go to powerschools.com/Texas to learn more and to sign up. The LMS system will have capabilities that enhance all of the product's functions, and we'll provide more details on that later. We also just want to highlight the fact that we know districts are really anxious to see some of these materials. They really want to take a look more closely. And all of those materials are, given that they're being adapted for the local context, are currently going through review. So we plan to release packages of materials as soon as they've gone through the review process. So we're planning to have some of the high-level materials for Module 1 available on Monday, August 31st. We are also working very closely with the vendor to provide additional information about future release dates for additional components in Module 1 as well as future modules, and we'll be updating that on texashomelearning.org. I'm going to turn it over to Dana, who's going to share a little bit more about the Eureka Math TEKS Edition product.
Thank you, Kristen. Yes, we're going to take a look at some of the materials in Eureka Math TEKS Edition and the aligned supports that are included in this Texas Home Learning offering. As we do so, I'm going to highlight how the curriculum is built to support a variety of school models and remote learning so that you can consider how it could support your local context. We're going to start with some teacher and student materials and see how they could provide a high quality mathematics instruction regardless of student learning environment. First, Eureka Math TEKS Edition is organized by modules of related content over the year. This graphic shows how a module is the largest organization of content within the grade level materials, and each module is broken down into a series of interrelated topics, and each topic is further broken down in a series of individual lesson clusters. Modules vary in length based on the content topics identified as essential, and so as a result, some might be longer than others. However, the structure of the modules remains the same, and within each module, you'll find full daily lesson plans, student materials, as well as assessments. So let's look at a teacher topic overview. The overview names the TEKS that are addressed within the topic, and this is a grade 2 module 1 topic overview, just as an example. The TEKS are named, and you can see the grade level TEK is bolded for 2nd grade, and some of the vertically aligned TEKs from previous grade levels are also listed. You can see the focus standard, the instructional days, and coherence links to previous grade levels and previous content. You can also see that the topic overview highlights some of the commonly used instructional tools and models used throughout the topic. So reading the topic overviews helps teachers prepare to teach the topic and the lessons within it. Now let's look at some of the components of a Eureka Math lesson. Eureka Math lessons include 4 components that, when used with fidelity, ensure that students have sufficient integrated practice with all of the parts of rigorous mathematical education in service of both our grade level mathematics TEKS as well as our mathematical process standards. Each Eureka Math lesson includes fluency practice, an application problem that engages students with the mathematics in a real-world context, concept development, which is where students engage deeply with the new content being studied, and a student debrief, where students engage in discourse about their learning. Eureka Math TEKS Edition includes problem sets for student practice and exit tickets for progress monitoring. And the components of a Eureka Math lesson work together to build students' understanding of grade level TEKS. Let's look again at some more grade 2 materials. So here you can see the fluency component. Almost all lessons begin with this component to support development of fluency skills for maintenance, staying sharp on previously learned skills, preparation, targeted practice for the current lesson, and or anticipation, skills that ensure that students will be ready for the in-depth work of upcoming lessons. This component provides daily opportunities for students to gain confidence and motivation for continued learning. This fluency activity is called Take Out 10 and Subtract, which serves a maintenance purpose for previously learned concepts. You'll also see in this exercise a common feature of Eureka Math TEKS Edition, a drawing or model to help teachers understand the expectation for student work. You can also see from this fluency example that in Eureka Math TEKS Edition, students are not expected to only drill math facts for fluency. Let's look at another component of this grade 2 lesson called the concept development. Like the fluency component, the concept development section of the lesson includes representations to support teachers in their instruction. The concept development often has more than one part and clearly names the focus of the part. For this one, it's subtraction of single-digit numbers from teen numbers using drawings. Lessons also include notes on how to support all learners within the lesson, such as this note on multiple means of engagement. Another part of the lesson plan I wanted to highlight is the application problem, which provides a lot of opportunities for alignment to the mathematical process standards. Students apply mathematics to problems arising in everyday life and use a problem-solving model to solve. You can see that this application problem directly calls out the mathematical process standard C on selecting tools to solve problems. There are also several student strategies included to help teachers know what to anticipate or push for from their students. The problem set is carefully sequenced to provide an in-class opportunity for independent work with multiple entry points for differentiation, since problems build from simple to complex. Teacher materials include an image of sample student work using strategies from the module. As an additional support for remote learning, problem sets accessed digitally can be filled in and annotated by students. Teachers can see the annotations and provide feedback through additional annotations. Let's talk even more specifically about how you can support remote learning with Eureka Math TEKS Edition. So included with the Texas Home Learning 3.0 materials for Eureka Math TEKS Edition is the Eureka Math InSync tool. These materials work together with the curriculum itself. Eureka Math InSync provides flexible tools and resources beyond just the teacher and student materials. These tools support continuous, high-quality instruction, whether schools operate in person, virtually, or through some combination of both. This product is designed to complement, not replace, the knowledge building resources in the full Eureka Math TEKS Edition curriculum. At the heart of Eureka Math InSync are 4 new tools designed to enhance delivery of the lessons across various configurations of in-person and virtual instruction. And we'll go into some of these today. Eureka Math InSync helps educators meet this current moment by providing additional supports for continuous learning, whether it be in the classroom or in the living room. These supports can help you adapt Eureka Math TEKS Edition for Texas Home Learning to your specific school model. Texas Home Learning materials were carefully designed to support teachers in the work of providing strong instruction remotely, not to replace teachers as the primary instructor. But understanding the needs of remote and distance learning, the Eureka Math TEKS Edition InSync materials include recorded real classroom teachers delivering each lesson. These pre-recorded lessons are intended to support asynchronous learning for students and their family members, since the teacher can't always be there. Let's watch a brief clip from this video of a kindergarten teacher delivering a lesson on counting so that you can see the supports included for remote learning.
All right. At home, I want you to count out 4 cotton balls and put them in a straight line. I'll do it too. Let's count together and make sure that we have 4 cotton balls in a straight line. Ready? Touch and count. 1, 2, 3, 4. Great. We have 4 cotton balls in a straight line. Awesome.
And I'll pause it here. That's about a 15-minute video of a teacher modeling a lesson to support students in their asynchronous learning as needed. The Eureka Math InSync materials also include Learn Anywhere plans, which provide guidance on how to deliver each lesson regardless of the model, remote, in-person, or hybrid. Module level plans provide at-a-glance information about the structure and recommended mode of delivery for the various lesson components. It also supports teachers to quickly transition from in-person or hybrid instruction to fully virtual if necessary. It includes recommended problems for discussion-based assessments that can be used in conjunction with the mid and end of module assessments. Lesson level plans provide recommendations around the daily lesson video and teacher facilitated instruction. And they also increase ease of lesson preparation for educators, especially when in-person instruction is not possible. And they promote teaching with fidelity and rigor in a variety of scenarios. There are also topic facilitation slides for each topic that provide recommended routines and questions to facilitate student discussion of essential knowledge. Let's look a little more closely at a possible student experience if using Eureka Math TEKS Edition. This is an example for a hybrid model in which students attend school 2 days per week and learn remotely for the remaining 3 days. This is only an example and by no means the only way to use the Eureka Math TEKS Edition materials. And should you choose to adopt them, you can find a way to use them to meet your local context and needs for remote and synchronous or asynchronous learning. In this example, Carla attends school in person on Mondays and Tuesdays and receives instruction on the Eureka Math lesson directly from her teacher in school. Carla learns remotely on Wednesday through Friday with synchronous instruction through her district's LMS on Wednesdays. She learns asynchronously on Thursdays and Fridays. Jack, another student in Carla's school, has the opposite schedule of in-person and remote asynchronous learning. Regardless of the type of schedule, teachers are able to leverage the resources and recommendations within Eureka Math InSync to optimize knowledge building within students, whether in person or remote. All of the components of InSync allow teachers the flexibility in regards to how lessons should be delivered based on their varying situations. You can see a benefit of this example is that students are completing a full lesson every day, whether that be in person or remote. I'm going to pass it over to Melissa to talk about some of the supports for all learners and families in the materials.
Thanks, Dana. Although Dana has mentioned some of the supports already, we're going to go into a little more detail to help explain how the materials are designed to support all learners. Eureka Math TEKS Edition contains many components to allow for teachers to remediate, differentiate, and extend a student's learning. This includes various types of fluency, the maintenance, preparation, and anticipation, application problems, universal design for learning that enables built-in accommodations for teachers to provide students in each lesson. Problem sets increase in complexity to allow for immediate differentiation in real time. And there's homework helpers provide additional guidance and examples. Supporting all learners happens in all lessons and is integrated in, not isolated from, strong instructional practices. This is why the lessons include notes that support teachers in scaffolding learning for students and anticipating multiple kinds of representations so that all students can be successful. For example, the multiple means of representation note explains to teachers that there are many ways of showing an answer to this problem, so that teachers know to be looking for a variety of strategies. It also provides guidance on steps to take for students who need a little more support to access the grade level content. There are also intentional language supports included in Eureka Math TEKS Edition. This will help provide teachers and students with the capacity to easily toggle between English and Spanish resources through their digital access. Daily lesson videos are recorded in both English and Spanish, as well as closed captioned. Curriculum PDF files will be in both English and Spanish, which are printable for teachers and students. Many components of the product already mentioned to support students and teachers will help family members engaging with the product as well, such as the language supports and lesson videos. In addition, there are homework helpers and parent tip sheets to provide further guidance for parents. The parent tip sheets give a key concept overview and identify ways that parents can help at home, and the homework helpers walk through sample problems so that family members know how to coach students on additional problems. The inclusion of Eureka Math Equip in the Texas Home Learning Eureka Math TEKS Edition materials helps teachers bridge from gathering data about student knowledge and gaps and having instructional recommendations to move forward to meet the needs of all students. Equip is a collection of formative assessment tools to support teachers as they design instruction that builds on students' prior knowledge. The coherent sequence of the curriculum provides the perfect foundation for interventions that focus on students' strengths, creating rigorous and connected learning experiences. At the heart of Equip are 3 new tools designed to help teachers address students' unfinished learning of essential foundational knowledge while supporting success with grade level content. There is the pre-module assessments that are designed to assess the specific foundational knowledge students need to access the grade level content of an upcoming module. And assessment reports provide the data to identify whole class, small group, and individual student needs. Instructional recommendations found in the Eureka Math Equip teacher guide help teachers design targeted interventions while maintaining forward progress on grade level content. We know the ability to identify and build on students' prior knowledge is always important, but this work is especially important as a result of school closures at the end of last school year. Using Eureka Math Equip as part of the instruction helps teachers do the important work. Teachers begin by administering assessments, then analyzing data using reports and guidance, then make instructional decisions for supporting content. All of this then supports how teachers begin the module instruction so that all students can meet grade level content regardless of learning loss or gaps. Here's a picture of a report from Equip. Included in this, this tool helps teachers understand and respond to students' learning needs, support unfinished learning, and helps all kids access grade level content. This tool helps teachers understand where each individual student is in his or her learning and therefore develop the plans to meet each student's needs. Equip was designed with a very specific philosophy in mind. This is that all students need to engage in their grade level content. Consider the 2 images on the slide. In each image, the hand is distributing the interventions or supports students need in grade level instruction. Equip's instructional recommendations are designed to support teachers as they provide intervention and support throughout the year. When students are deemed not ready for grade level content and intervention is clumped together at the start of the year, teachers find themselves scrambling to fit the grade level content in during limited time left. Equip supports teachers in taking a different approach that provides continuing support to meet students' needs, while also creating equitable opportunities for students to access grade level content throughout the entire year. I'm going to now turn it over to Kristen to talk a little bit more about implementation best practices.
Thanks so much, Melissa. I am going to pause really quick and just voice over a couple answers to questions we're seeing in the chat. All of these materials will be freely available for districts to access. So you'll be able to access them through the Great Minds website, which can be linked, which we will link through texasHomeLearning.org. They will be freely available for 4 years, all of the materials, and then the Eureka Equip tool, which is the assessment tool, that will be available for 2 years. So districts will be able to access those resources for free during that time. The cost consideration to consider as it relates to the instructional materials will just be printing and distribution for in your local context. So I want to make sure that's clear. We also are getting a number of different questions around the LMS supports. The LTI code will be provided in the instance that a district does not want to use Schoology and wants to integrate the materials into their own learning management system. We're not going to cover that information in detail today, but we will be seeking to provide information through our technology supports webinars around how districts can think about the use of the LMS as it relates to a specific set of materials. Lastly, I know we've had a couple comments related to wondering when materials will be ready. We will be providing information on that as soon as we have it, but I also want to acknowledge that one of the things we do hope to do, given that many of you have started school, is provide supports on how you can think about adopting materials at different points in the year. So for example, if you are a district that is a month in before you're ready to start using the Eureka Math TEKS Edition materials, we'll provide guidance and support for how to start using those materials in your own context. So for example, where do you start within the Eureka Math recommended scope and sequence, and how do you think about transitioning at different points in the year? So those supports will be coming soon. I'm going to move forward with implementation, the implementation section for now, and we will continue to revisit questions at the end of the call. So this section really focuses on what it means to implement Eureka Math TEKS Edition with fidelity using best practices for effective implementation. So Eureka Math TEKS Edition is a flexible, research-proven math solution designed to support the unique mathematical goals for each district. However, there are some features of the curriculum that are foundational to its effectiveness and are recommended to be followed in order to advance student learning in mathematics. This visual highlights some key implementation best practices districts should consider for implementation. And I do want to highlight that these best practices are grounded in TEA's broader foundational effective schools framework focused on providing districts with a clear vision to ensure excellent education for their students. So the implementation best practices you see here are highlighted in some of the effective school framework's key levers focused on high quality curriculum, well-supported teachers, and effective instruction. So the visual above on this slide, the outer ring represents various districts and school system structures and processes that should be centered around high fidelity use of the Eureka Math TEKS Edition product. These things can be integrated and aligned to support effective use of the curriculum. Additionally, given the change required to successfully support the use of a new product, it is recommended that districts and schools invest in some of the upfront and ongoing training aligned to the use of a product that's specifically designed for administrators, school leaders, and teachers when thinking about launching that product in their local context. To highlight some of the components in this visual, there are many ways that you can modify the use of Texas home learning curricula to meet your needs in your local context and your specific school models. Again, these are some features of the curriculum that are foundational to its effectiveness and therefore must be followed in order to benefit from the quality of the product and advancing student learning. So to ensure effective use, follow the model sequence to ensure coherence. Moving the order of the modules could expose students to content for which they do not have the foundational skills to access. For example, students may be asked to do a fluency exercise that was supposed to reinforce previously learned content, such as finding equivalent fractions. If the fractions module has been moved to later in the year, they would not be able to complete this exercise. So skipping many fluency exercises will leave students without practice in an important component of high quality mathematics. By the time they encounter fractions later in the year in the reordered sequence, they will not have the sufficient opportunities to review. Although reordering of lessons in Eureka Math will not support student mastery of the TEKS, adapting lessons to meet the specific needs of your students and local context is necessarily and highly encouraged. As teachers internalize the Eureka Math lessons, they may find the need to add additional scaffolds for specific students to reteach all or part of lessons that students did not understand, or change the context of the application problem to better connect to students in their own classrooms. Lastly, Eureka Math builds students' understanding of mathematical concepts across topics and modules. Focus on mastery over a topic arc, not an individual lesson. This reinforces concept-based rather than skills-based instruction. So as we move on to other sections of this visual on the left, you'll see the top two sections highlighted in blue. Effective implementation also requires that some districts and/or school level systems and structures align certain components to the curriculum itself. So for Eureka Math, the schedule should follow at least 45 to 60 minutes of daily math instruction to be able to utilize the specific lessons with fidelity. In hybrid and remote school models, some of this time can be asynchronous. In addition, using the included mid and end of module assessments and the Equip formative assessment tool will ensure that teachers measure student progress against the learning that they've done with the specific curriculum. So this way you're assessing progress in the context of what you're teaching and not using an outside assessment that isn't necessarily aligned with the curriculum. Effective implementation also means that teachers are using the materials well to drive student achievement. And so coaching and evaluation systems then reinforce high quality implementation of the curriculum. Integrated coaching and curriculum, integrated coaching is curriculum specific and supports teachers' use of Eureka as intended. So for example, Eureka Math TEKS Edition includes a formative assessment tool. So instead of coaching teachers on how to create formative assessments, coaching can shift to focus on how teachers can use the Eureka's Equip tool that's provided with the materials to monitor student progress and respond to data. This will make coaching of effective teaching practices integrated with the curriculum, and it creates a more coherent and effective experience for students and teachers. Similarly, when supporting teachers in building content knowledge, it's important to align it to the modules and the lessons of the Eureka Math TEKS Edition product. So for example, teachers are more prepared and successful in facilitating student learning when they have worked through the math prior to teaching the lesson. Professional development and PLCs may be structured in a way to encourage and support teachers working through both lesson activities so they can solidify their own content knowledge, become better prepared to identify places where students may need additional scaffolding or review, and enhance their ability to adapt lessons for their local context. You may be considering using Eureka Math as soon as it is available, or you may be considering transitioning to Eureka Math later in the year if it's needed and better meets the needs of some of your teachers and students. As a reminder, the Eureka Math Equip tool can help you identify student knowledge gaps when teaching new modules so that you can begin with the right content. The tool recommends what lessons can be combined and or skipped when you're thinking of this implementation. You can also use the consolidation guides that are provided in the materials to maintain pacing. In addition to some of these best practices when implementing the curriculum, we also want to provide an overview of some of the onboarding trainings that are included. So additional introductory sections on Eureka Math are coming with the launch of the Module 1 materials. In addition, Eureka may build in supports to help teachers and leaders understand the materials, such as the module and topic overviews and getting started guides. We also want to highlight a couple implementation supports included in Texas Home Learning. Again, from a materials overview perspective, we will be providing an overview for a given grade level for each module. There will also be training guidance on how to deploy and use materials in a remote and hybrid setting. Coming soon will be some TEA materials that help teachers and districts think about how to support internalization, as well as coaching tools specifically designed for each curriculum to help support coaching in a district's local context. And finally, we'll be working with education service centers to provide additional supports for THL implementation as it relates to each product. Additionally, available for purchase, there will be some additional scope and sequence professional development and coaching for leaders and teachers that can be accessed through the Grapevine's website. Finally, moving forward, we do want to quickly revisit when you can access materials and upcoming webinars. So just to highlight again, all of materials and webinars will be available on the texashomelearning.org website. Here you will be able to get an overview of the products. You'll be able to stay in the loop about upcoming webinars and events and releases. And you'll be able to access the vendor-specific landing page to review sample materials. When you go to the TEA website, under the instructional materials section of Texas Home Learning, that's where you can access all of the links to the product vendors' websites, where you can explore the materials that are available. We also want to highlight that we will be creating webinars for all of the products that are part of Texas Home Learning that are coming soon. So as a reminder, yesterday we did a webinar for Math 612, where we've released Carnegie Learning Texas Edition. That webinar can be found on the Texas Home Learning website, where you can learn more about the Math K-12 product. This webinar focuses on Math K-5, and we will also be holding webinars for the integrated pre-K product, the K-5 ELAR and SLAR products, the 612 ELAR products, the K2 SLAR skills product, the K-5 science product, and the K-5 social studies product. In addition to these webinars, we will also be starting to host webinars for districts who are interested in adopting each of the products, where they can learn more about the immediate next steps to get onboarded to the product and to start to use it effectively in their classroom. We also want to highlight again that some high-level materials for Module 1 for Eureka K-5 will be available on August 31st, and we will also be working to provide additional information about the release dates for other materials included in Module 1, as well as the additional modules. We are going to pause here and read through some of the chat questions to see if there are questions that you all have, and we will be responding to questions real time. So that does, however, conclude the webinar, but again, we will stay on to answer some of the questions in the chat.
Everybody, thanks a ton for joining us today. We have one question about TEKS alignment with these materials. We just want to be incredibly clear. All of these materials are being developed to 100% be aligned with our TEKS and fully supporting the TEKS. Just want to make sure that's 100% clear, given some communication we saw in the chat.
We have a couple questions about logins. Students will not need to log into the vendor's site to access materials. If you would like to, there's additional functionality related to that if you decide to use an LMS system, but we will be posting the student materials that anybody can access as one way of accessing the overall materials. We do have a couple questions about how closely aligned Eureka Math TEKS Edition is to the TEKS resource system. We do want to highlight that the products were developed separately and are not aligned, and it is not recommended that components of this product be split up and adapted to the TEKS resource system scope and sequence. So the recommendation for effective implementation is that you follow the scope and sequence that will be included in the materials to be able to implement the materials as they were designed, given that many of the lessons build on each other and reference knowledge developed in previous lessons. We will be working closely to learn from districts that have adopted materials, and we will be requesting both feedback from the perspective of districts that have adopted that want to provide implementation feedback. And so we can start to share some of that information in a future date once we have more visibility into districts that are using materials once they've gotten launched. The trainings that we have included on the webinar, so there will definitely be some onboarding trainings and some trainings that provide additional information to get up to speed with different modules that will be freely included with Texas Home Learning. In addition, TEA will also be providing some additional training and free resource supports that are a part of Texas Home Learning. There will also be an option to pay for additional training, and we will make sure it is very clear what will be free and what training can be paid for if you want specific customization and or specific supports. I'm seeing one more comment. I think, Andrew, this is what you were trying to get at. When we are saying it is not aligned to the TEKS resource system, we are not saying that it's not aligned to the TEKS. Those are two separate things. The TEKS, when we say it's not aligned to the TEKS resource system, we just mean that there's a particular scope and sequence included in that product. And the scope and sequence that is included from Great Minds is different than that. Both of them, whether it's the scope and sequence in the TEKS resource system or the scope and sequence that is a part of the Great Minds product, both of those fully align to the TEKS themselves. So hopefully that clarifies that question. The first modules are going through the review process as we speak, which is why they're currently not available. So again, all of the materials go through an extensive review process that does include, for example, ensuring that all materials are aligned to the TEKS and ensuring that all materials have proper supports to support remote learning. So as soon as those materials complete the review process, they will be released.
Got a question about pre-K materials, and so the pre-K materials are not available for the Eureka Math TEKS Edition product. That's just for kindergarten through 5th grade math, but coming soon we will be hopefully very soon be able to announce a pre-kindergarten product that's included in Texas Home Learning.
As a reminder, for implementation best practice, it's recommended that students spend 45 to 60 minutes a day going through the lesson. We will post all webinars on the Texas Home Learning website, so you'll be able to find this webinar as well as the PowerPoint along with yesterday's webinar for Math 612 and any future webinars on that site. We do have a question about online math manipulatives. Online math manipulatives are built into the InSync platform for students to access.
One point of clarification with the recorded webinars, there are webinars under the professional development section of our website. Those webinars specifically are the Adopt webinar series. We'll be adding these webinars over to that side of the website eventually, but right now the webinars will be under the instructional materials part of the website. Specifically for this one will be under the K-5 math section with Eureka Texas Edition.
For the 45 to 60 recommended minutes, portions of that can definitely be asynchronous instruction. So it does not have to be 45 to 60 minutes fully synchronous. I think there's some good examples. There's one example that Dana gave in this presentation on just an example of what it could look like. There are many more examples that could work. And we'll work to provide additional guidance so that it is clear and remote learning supports what the high leverage points of the lesson are that are recommended for synchronous instruction.
We do have questions about scope and sequence, and just want to name that on the 8/31 release, we'll be releasing additional information that will help you with decision making and planning to put some high level guidance in there, including some information on pacing guides.
One quick question about TEA's sustainability plan for Texas Home Learning 3.0. One of the things we have done is work to try to ensure all materials are available for a minimum of 3 years, given that change management to move from one thing to another does take a lot of investment. And the hope is that if a district does choose to change, they don't have to change again immediately. So all materials are available for a minimum of 3 years. There's some slight difference between materials. So the Carnegie Learning Texas Edition is available for 3. Great Minds materials, so the Eureka Math TEKS Edition K-5 will be available for 4, with the assessment tool available for 2. So as we release products, we'll make sure that we provide an overview of how long all of the materials will be freely available so districts can plan accordingly. If you have left a question that we have not answered, we will make sure to post the FAQ document with answers in the coming days. So we are not ignoring you. It just may mean we need to do a little bit more to pull that answer together for you.
Thank you everyone for being here. Thank you for everything you're doing for students in Texas. And please keep updated on texasHomeLearning.org. Thank you.
Yes, thank you so much. Goodbye, everyone.